living in a time where nobody seems to care. It's like we've lost our mind.
Malachi 3, verses 8, 9, and 10. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Verse 9. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Verse 10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven, to pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive. Okay, so now first off, I want to say that the church must be supported. Okay, that's one thing. All right, so this is not a teaching to stop you from giving. This is not a teaching to stop you from giving. This is all about understanding the Bible and understanding the truth, what is meant and its purpose. Okay, because now there are blessings attached to your giving. Because as we read in our offering confession, 2 Corinthians 9, 6, and 7 says, but this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a what? A cheerful giver. So this is all about explaining the significance of tithing. Okay, so I have three objectives today. The first objective is that is to prove that tithing had nothing to do with money. The second objective is to prove that tithing ended in the New Testament. And the third objective is to prove that tithing was re-implemented after Jesus was crucified. Okay, so those are our three objectives. It had nothing to do with money. It ended in the New Testament, and it was re-implemented after Jesus was crucified. Okay? Before we get into that, I'm going to give you something that I want you to hold on to. Okay, and that is, there are some that will say that Abraham paid tithes to Melchizedek. Okay, this was in Genesis 14, 18 through 20. And this was before the law. And therefore, they say that this is why we should continue paying tithes. Okay, so I just want to give y'all that and hold on to that. So, but in order to prove my objective, I would have to provide proof that his payment was something other than tithing. Okay, and we'll return to that later. Okay, so let's get back into our scripture, beginning with Malachi 3 and 8. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with the curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will open you the windows of heaven, and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's what I want y'all to do, because it's going to be thorough. If you have any questions, hold the questions to the end. But if I'm talking about something that you don't understand, then stop me so I can explain it. So now, Malachi 3, 8, 9, and 10 has become the scripture used to justify giving money or paying tithes in church, giving money to the church. So this is read Sunday after Sunday to say, okay, give your money. This is why you should give your money, because you don't want to be robbing God. Okay, so now let's go through some things. We're going to break these words down. Tithes and offerings. First of all, we're going to start with offering. What does offering mean? Offering comes from the Hebrew word terumah, which means a contribution or offering to God, an offering of grain, money, etc. That's what offering means. Okay, no questions about that, right? Now, what are the types of offering? Okay, when we go to Leviticus 5, the first 5 are found in Leviticus 1 through 5. The first one is the whole burnt offering, which is a gift to God, and this is for atonement for sin. So that's in chapter 1. The second one is the grain offering, which is also a gift to God. That's in chapter 2. Then there's the peace offering for fellowship we find in chapter 3. Then there's the purification offering for unintentional sin. We find that in chapter 4. Then there's the reparation or restitution for deliberate acts. Okay, we find that in chapter 5. And that sixth type of offering is found in Exodus and in Corinthians as well, 2 Corinthians as well. But it is the free will offering. This is the offering from the heart. Okay? That's the offering from the heart, because we're just going to come back to that. So the purpose of the offering system was for worship. We found that with the grain and the peace. And to atone for sin. That's the purification and the reparation offerings. And then that final offering was from your heart. Okay? Now, before I forget, okay, I'm constantly reminding you that the Bible should be understood as before Jesus came, when Jesus walked the earth, and then after he was crucified, there began a change. Okay, so just for your information, when we're talking about these offerings, because one of the offerings was for peace, we understand that Romans 5:5 says, therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. So understand this. Here's what we have to understand about the Old Testament. The difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament is what? In the Old Testament, it was physical. Everything they did was physical. Okay? In the Old Testament, everything they did was what?
Physical.
In the New Testament, everything they did was what?
Spiritual.
It became spiritual. Okay? So we went from the physical to the spiritual. That's why you had to be circumcised in the Old Testament, physically circumcised, but in the New Testament, it's circumcision of the heart. Spiritual. Okay? So now, what does tithe mean? What does tithe mean? Okay? Ma'aser. It means 10th part. Payment of a 10th part. We see what tithe mean, right? Right? Okay, because a lot of times when we read the Bible and stuff, we need to read for understanding. And we're making words mean things that it doesn't mean. Let me explain something about tithe. Tithing was a part of a 7-year cycle established by God. All right, it was called the Shemitah. Every 7 years. That's how the tithing operated. On a 7-year cycle. Y'all understand that? So it operated on a what?
7 years.
A 7-year cycle. And what's the name of that cycle?
Sabbatical.
The Shemitah. The Shemitah cycle. It's a sabbatical year. Okay? Right. Okay. So we find this in Leviticus 25, 1 through 7. Watch this. So verse 1 says, and the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. Verse 3 says, 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. Verse 4, but in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field, nor prune thy vineyard. Verse 5, that which groweth of its own accord, of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of the vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. You see that? And the Sabbath of the land shall be what? Meat for you, for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with thee. And for thy cattle, and for the beasts that are in thy land, shall all the increase thereof be meat. So you know what that's saying? It's saying that, okay, you couldn't go out and harvest the ground in that 7 year. Yeah, you could eat what grew. but you couldn't go out and prune it and stuff. You understand that? You with me? Okay. All right. So it says 6 years that you were to do everything you're supposed to do, harvest and do all of that. But in the 7th year was a time of rest for the land. Right? So there was no sowing or reaping in that 7th year. Okay, y'all with me? So now, what are the types of tithe? What are the types of tithe? Okay? Leviticus 27, the first type of tithe was what? The yearly tithe. The yearly tithe was the first type of tithe. Okay, we find that in Leviticus 27, 30 and 31. So watch this. Verse 30 says, and all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. Verse 31, and if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the 5th part thereof. Okay, the second type of tithe was the festival tithe. The second type of tithe was the festival tithe. We find this in Deuteronomy 14, 22 to 27. 22 says, thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed, that the field bringeth forth year by year. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there. The tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always. Y'all still with me, right? Watch this. And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God has blessed thee, thou shalt turn it into money. Verse 25, thou shalt turn it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. 26, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and shall rejoice, thou and thine household. And verse 27 says, and the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he had no part of inheritance with thee. Okay, so let me explain what was happening here in this festival time. Okay, Exodus 23 and 14 lets us know that Israel, the men of Israel, had to meet before the Lord 3 times a year. Okay, right? And the place, we kept hearing the place where God shall set his name, right? We're talking about the Ark of the Covenant. It's where the Ark of the Covenant was. Now, let me give you some more about this feast. Okay, it had to be in the city where the temple was located. Okay, so they may be required to travel. All right, Israel provided all the food for this festival. All right, and like we said before, if it was too far, they had to convert the tithes into money. All right, and once at the city, once they got to the city, the place where the Ark of the Covenant was, they would, if they had converted it into money, they would buy whatever they wanted once they got to the place. Y'all understand that? Mm-hmm. You with me, Ro? If you don't understand, raise your hand so I can explain it to you, because I don't want you to be confused. Verse 25 says, actually, go back to 24. It says, and if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, the tithes, right? Or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God has blessed thee. 25, then thou shalt turn it into money. Bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go unto the place where the Lord shall choose. Right? So the place was too far, so they took the tithe, they turned it into money, had the money they had, now they're going to go to the place. 26, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusted after. once they got to the place. Now we're going to convert the money back into tithe. But now they're going to be able to buy whatever they want to. So the tithe was too much for them to bring. They converted it to money. Take the money when you get to the place, convert the money back into tithe. But now it becomes whatever you want. Y'all with me? Right? Okay. The third type of tithe was the third year tithe. The third year tithe. Okay. Deuteronomy 14, beginning at 28, it says, at the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase in the same year, and shalt lay it up within thine gates. And the Levite, because he had no inheritance with thee, the stranger and the fatherless and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest. All right, 26, Deuteronomy 26, just to clear it up, add something to it. Verse 12 says, when thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thine increase the third year, which is the year of tithing, and has given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. Okay, so this means that the third year tithe, remember we on a what year cycle? A 7-year cycle. So that means that the third year tithe happened when? The third year. The third year, and also when? In the 6th year. So it happened twice in that cycle. The third year and the 6th year. Okay, the fourth type of tithe was the Levitical tithe. This is the tithe of tithe. The Levitical tithe. Okay? Numbers 18, beginning at 26, tells us, thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, when ye take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then ye shall offer up a heave offering of it for the Lord, even a tenth part of the tithe. Okay, we don't need to. Well, let me read 28. Thus ye also shall offer an heave offering unto the Lord of all your tithes, which ye receive of the children of Israel, and ye shall give thereof the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. That concerned only the Levites. So what happened is the children of Israel brought their tithes to the Levites. And then the Levites had to pay a tenth of that to Aaron and his sons, the priests. So that's why it was a tithe of tithe. Y'all, as a heave offering. You understand that? So now we're talking about the Levites. Y'all know who the Levites were? Okay, let me explain who were the Levites. Deuteronomy 10 and 8 says that at the time the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord to minister unto him, and to bless his name unto this day. So let me explain who the Levites were. The Levites, you know that Israel, Jacob turned into Israel. His name was changed to Israel. He had 12 sons. So, and these became the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, we're gonna kind of break them down in a second. But Levi, he took out of the 12, and they became for God. Nehemiah 13 and 5 lets us know further who they were. And he had prepared for him a great chamber, where aforetime they laid the meat offerings, the frankincense, and the vessels, and the tithes of the corn, the new wine, and the oil, which was commanded to be given to the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the offerings of the priests. So the porters were like the janitor, the gatekeeper. So everybody that worked inside the house of God were the Levites. And then you had the priests was a different part of them. So the tithes belonged to the Levites, everybody that worked inside of God's house. And then they took a tenth of that and gave to the priests. Y'all with me? Mm-hmm. The final year of tithe was the 7th year tithe. We kind of touched on it earlier. But let's go to Exodus 23 and 10, beginning at verse 10. And 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shall gather in the first fruits thereof. But in the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave, the beasts of the field shall eat. And thine, in like manner, thou shalt deal with thine vineyard and with thy olive yard. There was no tithing in that year. We already established that it was rest for the land. Okay, no sowing or reaping, no harvest for the storehouse. Israel was allowed to eat whatever grew naturally, and the animals were not allowed. The animals couldn't work the land either. Okay, all right. So another thing is, in that 7th year, there was also a debt cancellation for Israel in that 7th year. Not the foreigners now, but for Israel. See, what would happen is it would be cancellation for everybody, but that following year they could reinforce that debt on the foreigners. And we find that in Deuteronomy 15, 1 through 4. Watch this. At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. See that? Mm-hmm. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth out unto his brother, his neighbor, shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. So God has set this up, right? Now, verse 3 says, of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine with thine brother, thine hand shall release. Okay? And look at 4. Save when there shall be no poor among you, for the Lord shall greatly bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it. Okay, so we understand that the debt release was for who?
Israel.
Only for Israel, and not for the foreigners. When in that 7th year was over, they could put that debt back on the foreigners. Okay, all right. Why is that? Why was it like that? Does anybody know? Who did God deal with in the Old Testament?
Israel.
Israel. God only dealt with Israel in the Old Testament. Y'all understand that? The Old Testament was all about the nation, about the people. That's it. Y'all get that? So that's why everything that he established with them, through them. Okay? No, he only spoke through his prophets. Right. He only spoke through his prophets. Okay? Y'all understand? Unlike in the New Testament, when it opened to the Gentiles, now all of us became, when it became spiritual, all of us had access to the things that he promised. Y'all get it? Y'all with it? Okay. So, let's go over the types of tithe again. There was the yearly tithe. There was the festival tithe. There was the 3rd year tithe that happened in the 3rd year and the 6th year. Okay. And then there was the tithe of tithe, which was only for the Levites. Okay. And then the 7th year, there was no tithe. Okay. And there was also a debt release cancellation in that year. Okay. So now, what did tithing refer to? Let's see if y'all been paying attention. What did tithing refer to? Okay, we've read in scriptures, if you've been paying attention, you've heard corn, wine, oil, herds, and flocks. That's what we heard. We haven't heard money yet, right? Leviticus 27, beginning at 30, it says, and all the tithe of the what? Land. Whether of the seed of the land or of the
fruit of the tree.
Fruit of the tree is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. All the tithe of the what? Land, whether of seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, it is the Lord. It is holy unto the Lord. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 31, beginning at 5. It says, and as soon as the commandment came abroad, the children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of corn, wine, and oil, and honey, and all the increases of the field, and the tithe of all things brought they in abundantly. Let's go to Nehemiah 10 and 37. It says, and that we should bring the first fruits of our dough. Does that mean money? You don't mean that type of money. All right. Okay. And our offerings and the fruits of all manner of trees of wine and of oil, unto the priests, to the chamber of the house of our God, and the tithes of our ground unto the Levites. That the same Levites might have the tithes in all the cities of tillage. Now, watch this. In Matthew 23 and 23, Jesus made reference to the tithe, because this is the New Testament, but I don't want to mess y'all up with something with the New Testament. Jesus made a reference to the tithe, okay? Because we understand that Old Testament was before Jesus, New Testament after Jesus was crucified, there was a change. When was the change? After Jesus was crucified. So that means when Jesus is making a reference to us, he's referencing what?
The Old Testament.
The Old Testament, before the change, because it didn't change until after he was crucified. All right, y'all with me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So watch this. Jesus talking to the. He said, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law." So he's saying that something is more important than them tithes and stuff that you're paying. Judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the others undone. See, because there's something important about that scripture right there. It's letting us know that something is more important than those tithes. Because in church we say what? Hey, give God his 10% first. That's the most important thing. You robbing God. Okay? So hold on to that. What we found is tithing referred to agriculture, fruit, trees, livestock, dough, wine, herbs, spice, and oil, but never silver, gold, or money. We're seeing that, right? Okay, so let me explain this to you. Let me take you here. Because there was two laws that we need to understand. The Bible always say the law. Now we understand that that the Bible, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, New Testament written in Greek. Okay, so sometimes we see the same word, but it has different meanings, right? So what we see is throughout the Bible, it talks about the law, right? But there are two laws in the Bible. There was the law of God, which was the what? The 10 Commandments. Okay? Then there was the law of Moses, which was what?
600.
The 600 plus laws. All right? It was 600 plus laws. Because, okay, 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. Right? Thou shalt have another God before me. Law of Moses was there was the clean and unclean animals, the scale fish, all of that, right? Eye for an eye.
When a woman is on her cycle,
she's unclean. That was under the law of Moses. And see, the thing is, most of the time when the Bible refers to the law, it's talking about what? The 600 and something laws of Moses. That's why it was called the law, because it was so many laws, but the people couldn't keep the law. Okay, y'all understand that? So in the Old Testament was the law of Moses. So watch this, but here's the thing. Here's what we need to understand about those laws of Moses, because I'm proving to you that what? That tithing was under the law of Moses. Okay, that Jesus fulfilled. So watch this. Deuteronomy 12:1 says, "And these are the statutes and judgment which ye shall observe to do in the land, right, which the Lord thy God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it all the days that ye live upon the earth." So there were statutes and judgments for where? In the land. Right? So the law of Moses was for them to follow once they got in the land. Okay? All right. Matthew 5:17 says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." That's what I was saying about Jesus. Jesus said, "Think not that I'm come to destroy the law." Now think about this. The Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, all of these things. Could he destroy that? He can't destroy it. Okay, and the other thing to understand is that the 10 Commandments is a moral law. This is for your behavior. The laws of Moses were statutes and judgments that you should follow inside of the land. So when Jesus said, "I haven't come to destroy it, but to fulfill it," he's talking about the law of Moses, because what happened is it was so many laws of Moses that the people couldn't keep all the laws. So it kept them in bondage. But the law led them to Jesus, so that Jesus could come and fulfill it. You with me? Y'all understand that? Okay. So what is the purpose for tithing? Okay. What is the purpose for tithing? For this, now we need to revisit the Levites. Let's go back to the Levites. Okay, so Deuteronomy 10 and 8. What are we talking about now?
The purpose.
The purpose of tithing, because it has a purpose. Everything in the Bible has a purpose. So watch this. Deuteronomy 10 and 8 says, at that time the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord and minister unto him, and to bless his name unto this day. Now pay attention. Wherefore, verse 9 says, wherefore Levi had no part nor inheritance with his brethren. Y'all seeing this? The Lord is his inheritance. You see that? Who is his inheritance?
The Lord.
The Lord. According as the Lord thy God promised him. Numbers 18 and 26. Thus speak unto the children, thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, when ye take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance. So their inheritance what? Was what?
The tithes that they get from
The tithes was their inheritance. Okay, then shall you offer a heave offering unto the Lord, even the 10th part of the tithe. Okay, so watch this. Let me explain this. Okay, because I briefly talked about this earlier. Go to the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, 12 tribes of Israel, Jacob. Okay, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Zebulun, Issachar, Dan, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Joseph, and Benjamin. Okay, that was his 12 sons, right?
Right.
Go to the next slide. But then, when it came down to the land, because what would they promise?
Land.
Land. It was all about the promised land. The land flowing with milk and honey, the promised land, right? But when it got to the land, what happened is Levite was set aside for God, right?
Right.
Right? So Levite was taken away from the land, the promise of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph didn't get land either. What happened to Joseph there? Because Joseph was in Egypt. He was away from his brothers and stuff because they had sold him into slavery. Joseph received a double portion.
Mm-hmm.
You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So the double portion went to his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh.
Mm-hmm.
You watch that? So go to the next slide. So when it came down to the land, you had Reuben, Simeon, Judah, Zebulun, Issachar, Dan, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Ephraim, and Manasseh, and Benjamin. So right here, we remove Joseph, we remove Levi.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? This is when it came to the land. This is how the land was set up. Because he took out Levi for the purpose of ministering to God. And since he didn't get any land, he received the tithe. The tithe that they have to pay is going to go to you. That's going to be your inheritance. Because you're working for God.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Okay, so now, let me ask you this question, which is there still a Levitical priesthood? Okay, so when did it end?
When Jesus died on the cross.
It ended when Jesus died on the cross. Because what was the purpose of the priest? What did they do? Forget the tithe. What was their job?
They went before the God on the people's behalf.
You see what happened? So they took out the tabernacle. Then remember, and of course the priest went in before God on behalf of the people. That's why he had to always bring a sacrifice. So when Jesus died, what happened? He became the ultimate sacrifice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the priests don't have to go in and bring a sacrifice because Jesus fulfilled that, right? So that renders the Levitical priesthood obsolete. You with me? Because Jesus became our great high priest, which is why he's seated at the right hand of the Father, because he makes intercession for us.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we don't need to go to a man anymore to go to God on our behalf. Y'all follow that?
Yes.
You seeing how this is shaping up? So it was, when we go to Matthew 27 and 51, let me, just so you can see this. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice yielded up the ghost. We're talking about when he died, when he said it is finished. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to bottom, so that